TGIF and welcome to the Morning Voiceover Huddle. I am your host, your gracious host, Bill Weiss, professional voiceover talent, voiceover coach, voiceover demo producer. And I'm a little paranoid after what happened a couple of days ago when I found out that you weren't able to hear what I was saying because of some snafu. So if you wouldn't mind, just take a second to let me know if you can see and hear everything okay. Just let me know. And that way, that'll put my mind at ease. I'm pretty sure we're a-okay, but just to make sure. Well, first of all, let me tell you, today is, of course, being Friday. It's Q&A Friday, voiceover Q&A Friday. So if there's something burning on your mind, something you want to know, I don't know that I can get to every single question, but I'll get to as many as I can. And just make sure you throw your question up in the live chat. So you can do that now as you have an opportunity. Also, if you'd be so kind as to take a moment to subscribe to the channel. In case you didn't know, there's over a thousand voiceover tutorials, instructional tips, tricks, strategies, things to help you be successful, i.e., make more money in voiceover. And it's all free. So if you could just subscribe, the videos you like, give a thumbs up, share with your friends, family, your voiceover colleagues, and I would greatly appreciate it. Well, yesterday was possibly the worst day of my voiceover career. And the closest thing that I can compare it to, have you ever had one of those dreams where you're a child, like grade school, or maybe junior high, high school, but you're back in your school days and you go to school and you're sitting in class and you look down only to realize that you forgot to put your pants on or or clothing of some sort. And you're totally exposed and you don't know what to do. And if you haven't, neither have I, so just forget that I said the whole thing. But if you have, or if you've been in broadcasting, I know you radio folks will get this, the dream where you're on the air and the song that you're playing has just run out of time. It's like every song is 30 seconds long, which doesn't give you enough time to get the next song queued up or the commercials queued up or whatever. And so you're left with the song's over, it's dead air, and you're scrambling, trying to figure out what to do to make this thing keep going, to get something else on the air. If you've ever had a dream like that, then you have an understanding of the kind of day and the way that I felt yesterday. I didn't forget any clothing. It wasn't anything quite like that, but it felt that way. I felt completely exposed and vulnerable. So as you put your questions in for this Q&A Friday, let me tell you the story. And I'm telling you the story for a couple of reasons because number one, I think it's good for you to understand. And the students, those of you who are my voiceover blueprint, you know this. I share the good, the bad, and the ugly. I think you need the full picture. And I think it's if I portray myself as everything going great, I only have wonderful days, and I never have challenges, then I would be a fraud and a phony because of course I do. And I think it's important that I share those with my students so that they understand. But secondly, I hope it motivates you because I know so many of you guys, the biggest issue is getting you to move forward because you're so afraid of making a mistake. You're afraid that you're going to do it wrong. You're afraid you're going to somehow ruin your reputation, that all eyes are on you. And if you make one misstep, then you're going to be out of the game completely. And I hope that me sharing these kind of things, you understand that that's not the way this works at all. As a matter of fact, it's inevitable that if you branch out to do anything at all, and even continue to do that you're doing now, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to embarrass yourself. It just happens. It happens, and there's no way to avoid it except by going through it. That's the only way you grow. And sometimes, even when you know better, you still make mistakes. So here's the story. There's a couple parts to the story. I'll try to make it as brief as I can. But yesterday it was a good day in terms of voiceover work. I had a couple of cool projects. I was hired to record promos for New Mexico PBS TV, so I worked on those. I was also contacted by the Minnesota State, the Minnesota Department of Highway Safety to produce a couple of public service announcements. And when they hire me, which they do on a semi-regular basis, they want me to do full production. So it was a 15-second PSAs, but they weren't just the reads. It wasn't just the voiceover. It was full production. So there was lots of sound effects, traffic, cars blowing, trucks tooting the horn, blasting by, texts. It was a distracted driving PSA. Phones ringing, screeching, police sirens. I mean, it was a pretty intense production. So but in addition to that, what I was most excited about yesterday is that I had been contacted that a major brand was about to launch a national TV campaign, advertising campaign, and they had narrowed their choice down to two voices for this campaign, and I was one of the voices. And so what they were going to do, they were actually going to do a paid Source Connect session yesterday, just as a test, a demo audition read with the advertising agency that handles this particular brand, which you all know. And so very excited. I mean, you can imagine. I mean, a lot of, occasionally those kind of things come along, but it's not every day. You're not doing the major brand stuff every day. Sometimes it's things like I said, you're doing public service announcements or, you're doing small or medium businesses. And I love it, or e-learning, and I love all of it. I love all of it. I would be perfectly happy doing that all the time. But occasionally, the major brand comes along, the bigger opportunity, the bigger paycheck, all of that kind of stuff. So clearly I was very excited about it, and it was on my radar and, really ready to rock and roll yesterday. And so I wanted to make sure that I got this other stuff done in time so I'd have time to really they sent the script yesterday morning. I wanted to make sure I looked through it, make sure I had a good understanding of what was going on. I'm not a big believer of over rehearsing and over practicing, and perhaps that should be a discussion for another video. But I think you can before you go into a session where you don't have a director, you don't want to become too married to the way you think you should be doing the script, because they'll have their own idea. So you just want to have at least a pretty good idea of what's going on. So they sent me the script yesterday morning, and we had the time set up. It was we were to record at 2:00 Eastern time yesterday afternoon. So I was working on this Minnesota Department of Highway Safety distracted driver production, and it was, I don't know, noon, 12:30, and I wanted to make sure that I had it done in time, so I have 30, 40 minutes beforehand so I could relax, take a look at the script, be ready to go for this big audition. One of the biggest, of my career. So I'm cruising along, and I'm in the thick of this production where I'm dealing with I don't know how many different audio files and sound effects and multi-track, and trying to make all of this, squeeze this into 15 seconds, and so I'm sweating over this thing, and all of a sudden I get a notification on Source Connect that the studio that I'm going to be working with to do this audition for the advertising firm for this brand, um, they're notifying me to call me. So I look up at my clock and it says 1:00. I thought, well, we're a little early. So I pick it up, and he said, "Hey, Chris, this is Bill. How are you doing?" I said, "Good." I said, "Don't we go at 2:00 this afternoon?" And he said, "Yeah, 2:00 Eastern time." And then it hit me. Last week, I moved to Central Time. So in my head, I was aware that I was in a different time zone, but I thought that I had reconciled that somehow and that I was on the same page. And I was not. I was an hour off. So he's ready to go. I haven't even looked at the script yet. So you got to imagine it's showtime. The lights are on. It's time for me to go. I haven't even opened the script. I was mortified. And I'm in the middle of this production. I got files everywhere. My mind's, going 100 different directions. And I said, "Chris, give me 3 minutes. Can you give me 3 minutes?" And he said, "Yeah." So I try to get everything closed down out of the way. I'm struggling. I'm scrambling trying to find the script, which wouldn't be a big deal normally, except that, all of a sudden, what, you're on pressure. It's like you're on stage, the spotlight's on you, and you're scrambling trying to find your stuff. And so I'm trying to find the script. I finally find it. I take a quick glance through it just so I get an idea of what it is. We reconnect, and the engineer wants me to do, to set levels, do a sound check. And so I start reading, and he says, "Well, that says, he said, I don't know, that doesn't sound quite right. Can you get a little further away from your microphone?" So, okay, I've never had that issue before, in doing a session. So, but okay. So I back up a little bit. He's like, "No, no, no. Now there's just too much noise." And I thought, too much noise? That's weird, because I'm in my whisper room and I know the noise floor is very low. And I said, "Okay, well," and so I leaned in closer to the microphone. He goes, "Yeah," he goes, "I think that's a little bit better." So he seemed to be satisfied, and I didn't give it another thought. So we do the session. I get on with these, very nice folks. There's 3 people from the advertising agency. And the idea is that it was just a regular session. I was doing a 30-second and a 15-second commercial, and it was treated like a regular session. It wasn't just read, okay, thank you. I was directed multiple takes, let's try this, let's redo this line, let's add this tag. Can you do this? Can you do, all the stuff that you would expect in a session, which I love that, by the way. I love being directed. I love the challenge of meeting a director's uh, direction. So we go through all of that. But there was a weird thing going on during it in that many of you guys know, I'm an allergy sufferer. And so when I'm doing a session like that, I got to do a lot of throat clearing. So I'm always muting my microphone. So I would mute my microphone to clear my throat, but I could hear it in my headphones. And I thought, this is so weird. And I thought, I don't want to hear me hacking and coughing and clearing my throat. But I had to do it. And so I'd mute the mic and do it. And then I would hear it in my headphones. And I thought, this is so bizarre and strange. But we go through the session. They seemed to be, at the end, they seemed to be extremely happy with what happened. They were very complimentary. Maybe they're just being nice. I don't know. But they made me feel good about what had just happened. And so I thought, oh, great. So we finish up the session. I go up to talk to Vicky, my wife, as I always do after something that, it's a big deal. And it's one of her favorite brands, by the way. So it was, a big deal to her too, just on a personal level. I'll just say we've spent a lot of money with this company. Lots and lots of money with this company. And so I was up there just kind of decompressing, talking to her, and my phone rings. And it's the studio that I just worked with. And so I get on I jump on the line, and I felt like I just dodged a bullet to begin with. So I thought, well, at least I pulled it together. Yeah, I hadn't seen the script, but I think one of my strengths is I'm pretty good on the fly, and I can, even when I feel turmoil inside, I'm able to just take a deep breath, and I have enough confidence because I've done it long enough that I know I can pull something together. Although again, this being one of the bigger auditions of my life, I would hope that I would have had a little more time to do it. So I was starting to feel good, and again, the phone rings, and so I pick it up, and the engineer says, yeah, he said, you know what? He said, that audio that you just sent me, I sent it over to the agency, and they said they can't use it. I thought, what in the world? He said, the quality is just not up to par. Well, that's the last thing a voiceover talent wants to hear, is that the quality of your audio. It's the thing I preach to you guys all the time. And I'm so keenly sensitive to that, and have spent countless hours, tweaking and tuning and making sure everything's just right. So I didn't understand. And then it began to dawn on me. I've dealt with this with the students that I work with. And usually the way he was explaining it to me, usually what happens is one of 2 things. Number 1, it's somebody new who hasn't worked with a condenser mic before, and they have it backwards, and they're talking into the back side of the microphone. There's option 1. Option 2, they don't have the proper audio inputs routed, and they're actually recording into the microphone of the computer. For me, it was the latter. I literally did a Source Connect session for one of the biggest jobs of my career through the microphone of a MacBook Air. I could have died. I was so embarrassed. Can you imagine how humiliated? And let me explain why. The reason that I'm so off kilter with all of this is, as many of you guys know, I moved last week. And in the move, I can't find all of my equipment. I retired my iMac, which was my workstation before, for a brand new MacBook Air M2, which has more smaller package, more horsepower, no fan. So it's the kind of thing that if I'm working remotely, I can have it right in front of me with no noise issues, because it makes zero noise whatsoever. Well, I can't find, somewhere buried, someplace in a box in this house, is a hub. I thought I had placed it in a place where I'd find it easily, but I can't find it. I don't know what happened to it. The hub, which will allow me to hook up all my USB peripherals, my mouse, my keyboard, my 4K webcam, my external monitors. I can't do any of that. And this little MacBook Mini has 2 USB-C inputs. So one for my iLok dongle, which has the license to my Source Connect, and the other for my Universal Audio, interface. So I've got my MacBook Mini in front of me. Not my MacBook Mini, my MacBook Air in front of me. And so that's what I'm working off of, which is fine. It's a small screen, but it's fine. It's completely silent. It's more than enough processing power, except in my old computer, it automatically routed into my Universal Audio, so they would hear me through my Neumann TLM 103. In this case, it didn't. It automatically went to the internal microphone. I was the kid in school that forgot to put their clothes on. I went to school without my clothes on. I felt exposed, completely and utterly exposed. And he said, well, maybe we'll be able to figure this thing out and rebook it for the afternoon. And as it turns out, they weren't able to do that. So my audition was taken to this company as is. And I haven't heard back, but it is what it is. And what I have to do now, and so I'm sharing it. Yeah, I think hopefully there's some entertainment value. And you think, okay, well, Bill DeWeese made a fool out of himself. So maybe I have a little more courage to go out there and do what I need to do. I hope so. That's one of the reasons I share it with you, because I don't care who you are. And if somebody pretends that they've never done anything ever embarrassing, then they're lying. It just happens. It's just, if you're trying to do anything, you're going to blow it. I didn't expect to blow it yesterday. And I was heartbroken over it. Excuse me, I was sick over it. But then I realized, what can I do about it? I can do absolutely nothing about it at this point. And so my philosophy is hold on loosely. You can't become too married to anything like that. You've got to hold these things loosely and allow reality, accept reality as it is. So I decided, you know what, I'm just going to let it go, and we'll see what happens. I may get the job, I may not. I hope that I don't get it because I spoke into the internal microphone of a MacBook Air. Just saying that just makes me cringe, but that's the truth. And that's the story of possibly my worst day in voiceover yesterday. So the next time you do something silly or foolish or you feel stupid, just think about me and laugh and think, okay, you're in good company. Some people pretend not that it doesn't happen, but it does. It's just part of the gig. And you know what? If I don't get the job, that's okay. I still have a career. I know how to build a career. I'll continue to do that. I don't need that one job or that one client to make my career. But boy, it would sure be awesome. It would be a cherry on top of the sundae, and a big cherry at that. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Well, it is TGI, not TGI, well, it is TGIF, TGI Friday. But beyond that, it's Q&A Friday. And what I want to do is take a few moments to go through and see who's on the live stream and give some shout outs and answer some questions as best I can. But first, Meyer Michigan Cherry Coffee. That's an unsponsored plug. By the way, my plug of Source Connect yesterday was unsponsored too. Check it out if you haven't yet. Those guys really are great. Okay, let's see. Rob in San Francisco. My cat wouldn't let me sleep last night. Oh, no. That's why you need a dog, Rob. No, I'm not trying to stir it up between the dog and the cat people. Just kidding. But I hope you have a good day. Barb in Ann Arbor. Miss Johnny in Houston. Bob in Reedsville, North Carolina. AJB. Good morning. Corey in Wisconsin. Good morning, John in Denver. Not John Denver, John in Denver. Jack in Phoenix. Good morning. What country do you do the most business in other than the U.S.? Well, I'd say about 25% of my work comes out of Europe. And out of Europe, most of it, I'd say it's a tie between the UK and Germany. But also, I do stuff for so many other countries. And the great thing is, it's just voiceover's voiceover is a global marketplace. It's very much a global marketplace. Wade in Philadelphia, how are you doing? Is working for royalty share for audiobooks a good start for those new to voiceover? Wade, yes, it is, for a couple of reasons. Number one, You'll be working on an actual book. They'll be published, so you'll have that pressure, which is a good thing. You'll learn to work, under that kind of pressure. In editing, you'll gain better editing skills, performance skills. You're not going to make a bunch of money on it. I've recorded 7 or 8 royalty share books over the course of my career. I still get a royalty check. It started off about $50 a month about 7 years ago. Now I'm down to about, I don't know, maybe 30, $35 a month. So it's, I can go to McDonald's, but a couple times a month, but it's, you need to start doing something. Janet in Florida, good morning. Lena, how does the current SAG strike affect voiceover? Well, it doesn't affect those of us who aren't SAG-AFTRA. If you're SAG-AFTRA, if you're a union, I'm pretty sure they don't want you to work right now. But I have not been, never have been, never will be, so it's not an issue for non-union folks at all. Can I start on Fiverr with 0 experience, or should I practice first? Well, I think Fiverr is a good place to practice as you earn, because Fiverr has the gamut from high pay to low pay clients. You got everything. So there's more entry level work on there. So certainly you need to record a DIY demo before you get on there and make that your practice. But yeah, don't wait till you get experience beyond that. Phil in Tokyo, good morning. Hey, Dan. Janet in Florida, AJB. He says that radio analogy was not a dream. Oh my gosh. Bob says broadcast experience. You've gone to the restroom and you misjudged the length of the record. That's playing or planning. Wow. Yeah, I know. Oh my gosh. Yeah, we could do probably an entire week, maybe a month on just radio stories. Broadcasters, we've got great stories. Scott in Texas. The first 3 steps of my VO plan is to read aloud slowly and often, develop my DAW skills, and produce a high-quality demo. Any suggestions? Well, I think those are 3 good places, to start. My suggestion beyond that, if you want further direction, is go below. I've got resources, links to resources in my description below. But you got the right idea, Scott. Hunter, good morning from Barcelona. Just started to dip my toe into voiceover. All right. Hunter, thanks for being here. Let me just encourage you to not only, do the toe, but let me give you a little push in the back and just push in the pond. Go in head first. Go all in. Bob in Wadsworth, if someone wants you to do a PSA that you don't agree with the premise, do you turn it down or do it for the money? I don't know, Bob. What do you do? That's a question. I can't answer that question for you. That's only a question that you can answer. You have to decide what you will and you won't do. It's your business. So if it's your practice to accept money for something that, you don't feel right about or uncomfortable with, and I don't even know, I don't know you. So believe me, this is not a judgment. You've got to do what you think is right. But my point is this, I get asked that a lot. I can't answer for you. I can only answer for me. It's only happened to me a couple of times in my career where it was just and I'm not offended easily. And I'm not, I tried not to be binary in my view of life, that either you're over here or you're over here. And, that's not the way life is lived. The reality of life, in my opinion. So it's not easy to offend me. And for instance, in political stuff, I don't care what political party, Democrat, Republican, Independent, Libertarian, that doesn't bother me. As long as your views aren't harmful to somebody else or you're doing. Now, of course, that opens up a whole can of worms. Well, of course, that side's views are harmful to everybody else. And I don't want to go down that road. But Bob, my point is, this is a choice that you have to make. It's no different than any other aspect of your life. Let's see here. Marie here from Texas says, VO give part-time or full-time options. Is there a certain amount? Oh, I want you to meet my daughter here this morning. You're on the live stream, Mallory.
I couldn't remember. Now that you're on Central Time, I didn't know when you were doing that.
Right? The time zone thing. I just shared my nightmare story yesterday of my time zone confusion, among other things. But
oh, man. Yeah. Okay. Well, I just had a quick question about a coaching session. So just call me when you're
okay.
done.
All right. We'll do. All right.
Okay,
Bye. I thought she would appreciate that. Let's see here. Is there full-time or part-time options in voiceover? There you go. That's up to you. And again, that's another thing. That's the great thing about voiceover. If you don't want to do a job, you don't have to do a job. If you want to limit your hours, you can limit your hours. You can make it what you want. I've got students, in my voiceover blueprint, who make more money part-time than they do in their full-time career. So that's a great thing about voiceover. It doesn't happen overnight. Obviously, you have to build that, but you choose. Christine, good morning from sunny Chicagoland. I can't believe I made it, but little is ill. Oh, but the little is ill and still sleeping, so here I am. Use every moment. Absolutely. That's a good philosophy, Christine. Hey, Ty, good morning. I have a pro commercial demo. Thanks, Bill. Yes, we recently worked on that, and good job on that, Ty. But would love to get into character game demos and other niches. Can I post DIY versions of those demos to my website or only the pro demo? Well, Ty, you can do what you want to do. You can. I think what I think you have to do is you have to be realistic about what to expect. If you really want to, if your end goal is to be a character actor, for that to be a major part of what you do, I think that's great, and you should pursue that. My recommendation is that you become successful in the broad market first, and then work your way down to that, because that, especially if you're doing Disney stuff and network TV stuff, that's a longer path, and it could take many years to get into with tons, thousands of auditions, and it doesn't always work that way, but usually that's the way it works. And you'll need a pro demo, to do that. But if you want to do some stuff like on Fiverr or the freelance sites, that's the way I would handle it. Is I would just put some demos up there on those sites. I wouldn't put them on my primary site, because unless you're very accomplished and you have a pro level demo, it won't match up with the other stuff on your website. And the character stuff I've been hired for, like video games and stuff, I've been hired off my commercial demo, because I don't have a character demo. Do not have one, because I don't market myself that way. But people here will hear my commercial demo and sometimes hire me, even so. So until you have a professionally produced character demo, I would just put that on like profiles or gigs. I wouldn't put it on your primary website, because all your other clients might see it too. And unless it matches up with what else you have, then that could create a problem. Aaron, a fellow broadcaster here. What's the single biggest thing I can do to shake off my default radio read sound? Well, Aaron, it doesn't happen instantaneously. Gosh, I've been doing voiceovers for going on 17 years now, and every day I have to be mindful of it. But I think what you have to do, I think a visualization thing can help you. Radio people tend to subconsciously envision themselves on a stage with the lights on. I know your program director says, but you're talking to Susan. She's 32 years old with 2.5 children, and so it makes you feel like you're talking to one person. But the reality is, broadcasters don't talk one-on-one. In my experience, rarely ever do they, because subconsciously they're very aware of how they sound and their voice, and so they're always projecting out to this audience that they perceive. Whereas voiceover, not always, but generally speaking, most of the time is a much smaller. So we're behind the curtain, peeking out. We're not the main character. And voiceover, you're just the messenger. You're not the show. It's not the Bill DeWeese radio show. They could care less who I am or what my name is or anything about me. It's all about the message that I'm carrying. And so if I put myself out in front of the stage, then I'm overshadowing the story and what's going on. So you have to make yourself less in voiceover, not more, but less. So imagine yourself behind the curtain, peeking out, kind of talking to the audience, as opposed to being center stage with the spotlight on you. Make people, here's another thing you can do. Instead of trying to speak out to whoever you're talking to, this imaginary audience, make them lean in to hear what you have to say. Because it takes it from here to up here and makes it intimate and personal. And that can make a big shift as well. Hey, Jim in Lincoln, Nebraska, good morning. Let's see here. Tess and Tequila, Steve in Rockford. Hey, Annie, how are you doing? In New Zealand. Damon, just started designing my own booth. Fantastic. Hey, Rob, how are you doing? In beautiful Duluth, Minnesota. Hope it's going to be a great weekend for you guys out there. We've got Gene from Dallas-Fort Worth. Good morning. Bob, how are you doing? In Brantford. Guy in St. Louis. John in Rhinebeck, New York. Cam Sedine, I hope I got that right. Good afternoon from Tunisia. Glad to have you here today. JR in Austin, Texas. Tanya in South Philly. Bradford in Simpsonville, South Carolina. Sherry in New York says, you're giving me a panic attack listening to this. LOL. You're such a gem in sharing real life experiences with us. Thank you for all you do. Oh, thank you, Sherry. True story, too. And by the way, when I find out whether I get the job or not, I'll let you know what happens. I'm just trying to let go. At this point, I have no control. Reality is in control, not me, and we have to bend to reality. Melissa, San Diego, what's up? Wally, when sending a project to a client after cropping it to Dropbox, or dropping it to Dropbox, I guess, and your storage, do you send it from your desktop or Gmail or Google Drive? What I do, I save the final project recording on my computer, and then it automatically syncs to Dropbox. And then I send the project to the client using WeTransfer, WeTransfer.com. It's a free service where I attach the file from my computer into WeTransfer, and off it goes. JC says, thank you for keeping it real. That's why I keep listening. Thank you, JC. Bob, OMG, what a nightmare. I know, right? Crazy. Oh, Wade from Philadelphia says, I finished one audiobook and the company offered me another one. Congrats. That's a bell ringer right there. Christopher in Durham, good morning. David says, speaking of Fiverr, I have years of experience and have even paid for expert coaching for best practices to get activity on my gigs. I'm getting nothing. Well, David, you may be suffering through what all of us suffer through with Fiverr, and that is it takes months. I don't care how good and how experienced you are. It can take months to get your first job. Fiverr will not, they will not send you, impressions where, people see you, hear you. They're very stingy with those. They'll make you work very hard to earn those. If you need proper training, I would recommend, check out MalloryFiverrTraining.com. And get in my voiceover blueprint. I got links below. Links in the description. Check it out. Yeah, but usually what happens is people just aren't patient enough. It takes time. Robert, what's your thought about Voquent? Robert, I have no thought. I mean, I've heard of them. I don't know. I'm not doing any work with them, so I really can't comment. Robert, happy Friday. Annie, look at all of us loving you from all around the globe. Thanks, Annie. I appreciate that. Mary from Alberta, Canada. Oh, finally, my first time watching. Oh, Mary, thank you. I'm glad to have you here. No good effort is a waste. Thank you. Damon, can you redo the audition and send it again? No. Nope. They said, we're going to take what we got and use it. It was, and if I'd made too big of a deal, once they say, no, we're going to use it, my job is to shut up and walk away. It's not to try to, make something else happen. That would just frustrate the client. I blew it. I did. I blew it. And that's on me. It's too bad, but it was on me. I should have done a better job in organizing my packing so I didn't lose my equipment to begin with. And when I realized that I hadn't, I either should have gone out and just spent the money and bought new equipment or made darn sure that everything was working properly here beforehand. And I missed it. I just did. And then finally I just got to forgive myself for it because, you know, what good does it do to beat myself up over it? I blew it and I blew it big time. And I know that. But now I just have to let it go. Who knows? I might still get the gig. I might not. Either way, the world keeps spinning. I'm fine. You're fine. It's all good. Hey guys, thanks for being here. I appreciate it. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And we'll see you back again Monday morning.